better daily, where we work hard in our minds, bodies, and our spirits to become 1% better every single day. Download the app and join our Betterment family at betterdaily.live to catch the video version of these podcasts. Here's your host and my dad, Alex Van Houten.
What is up, Betterment family? Happy Friday. Today is Flex Friday, and you can call me Coach because I, Alex Van Houten, am going to be walking you through a way that you can use your exercise practice in order to improve your 1% better every single day. And today, after we get that thing swinging, today we're going to be talking about compound and isolation movements. So I'm going to demonstrate a few of those for you to help you wrap your head around these, but these come directly following our hypertrophy or gain train seminar last night. And for those of you who missed it, I'll drop the link to the recording below. But this was a powerful workshop where we talked about muscle growth and growing muscle tissue and everything you need to know about making the most of that in your exercise practice. And this is the time of year, right now, this winter season, this is the time of year where I transition most of my clients, if they're not already, I transition them into a phase of hypertrophy. Hypertrophy, hyper meaning over, trophy meaning growth. Hypertrophy means the overgrowth of muscle tissue. And you can think of this as gaining lean body mass or growing muscle. Now, compound and isolation movements are important in this, because in a good hypertrophy program, the goal is to get a good amount of volume of work done on each muscle group every week. And if you get a good amount of volume done on those muscles, then they will grow week over week, and you'll be able to measure that progress. So for instance, let's say I'm doing shoulder presses, standing shoulder presses. Well, right now I'm seated, but anyway, let's say I'm doing shoulder presses. Then this week, maybe I do 3 sets of 10 repetitions at 15 pounds, right? 3 sets of 10 repetitions at 15 pounds. Now, next week in my workout where I do shoulder presses, I have a few ways that I could increase that volume. I could go 4 sets of 10 repetitions at 15 pounds. I could do 3 sets of 12 repetitions at 15 pounds. Or I can get real crazy and try to do 3 sets of 10 repetitions at 17.5 pounds or 20 pounds and see how that goes, right? That's called progressive overload. And in hypertrophy, the goal is to create progressive overload on every muscle tissue. Now, what the heck does this have to do with what I said before, compound and isolation exercises? Well, in hypertrophy, what we need to do is overload the muscles without hurting the joints. And compound and isolation exercises are powerful ways to make sure that your workout isn't too hard on your joints. So let's look at the difference between the two and then describe where they appear in a good hypertrophy workout. So compound exercises, it sounds really fancy. All it means is there are more than one joint moving in this exercise and more than one muscle group doing the movements, right? That's called a compound exercise. And an isolation exercise means that we've isolated one joint, one movement, one muscle group to do this particular exercise. And so, for instance, I've got some dumbbells here. Let me move my bench out of the way. I've got some dumbbells here, right? I'm going to show you a compound exercise for my biceps and an isolation exercise for my biceps. So this is called a bent over dumbbell row. I'm going to bend at the hips, bend the knees just slightly, head and chest is up tall. I'm going to pull through the shoulder blades. I'm going to drive those elbows up, squeeze the shoulder blades behind me, and come back down nice and strong. Boom. Boom. Just like that. This is called a bent over dumbbell row, and this is a compound exercise. I'm moving multiple joints at once, right? My elbow is bending. That's called flexion. My elbow is flexing. My shoulder blade is actually retracting, right? And depressing at the same time. And so, not the bad depressing, the good depressing. So that's a compound exercise. I've got multiple joints involved in the exercise. My back, my trapezius muscles, my rhomboids, my lats, and then my bicep muscle here, they're all involved in moving this 25-pound weight, right? Now, That's a compound exercise. An isolation exercise looks like this. My head and chest is up nice and tall. I'm going to curl this 25 pounds, just like this. Notice only one joint is moving. If you're doing them right. If you're really swinging that dumbbell up there, then more joints are moving than one. But in an isolation exercise, one joint is moving. And so I'm just targeting the biceps muscle here. Or another example of an isolation exercise might be shrugs. So I'm holding these dumbbells at my sides and I'm pulling my my shoulders up into my ears and then back down. Pulling my shoulders up and back and then back down. That's an isolation exercise for my upper trapezius muscle right there, right? Or, I don't think I'm strong enough for this, but another example might be a lateral raise. Oh, just barely strong enough. A lateral raise like this, that would be an isolation exercise for my deltoid, my shoulder, right? So compound exercises require large amounts of the body to work together as a unit. And then isolation exercises require one specific muscle group to work together because it's isolated, right? I'll show you one more example, and then we'll talk about how to use these in your workout, right? So this is a push-up, right? You can also do a chest press with the dumbbells, for instance. This is a compound exercise that uses the chest muscles, your pectorals, and your triceps working together. Just like this. See how I have multiple joints moving as a unit, right? My elbow is bending, and my shoulder is retracting and then coming forward, right? That's the flexion of the pectoral muscle that brings the shoulder forward. And then an isolation exercise for the triceps would be these triceps pull-downs, just like this. Only one joint is moving. Again, if you're doing it right, you shouldn't be up here, getting your whole body into it. It's not a tricep pull-down, right? So why the talk about compound movements and isolation movements? Well, this is something that's extremely important in hypertrophy because if we're trying to do the maximum amount of work with our muscles without hurting our joints, then that means we have to be really smart about what we stack on top of themselves, right? So imagine we're doing leg day, right? And I want to really work my quads, really work my hamstrings, really work my glutes without hurting my knees and hips. So what should I do? Well, you could start your workout with a couple very light isolation movements just to get the blood flowing, so to speak. And then do a light compound movement. So for instance, I might start by doing a couple drills where I get to extend my leg, a couple drills where I get to bend my leg, a couple hip bridges where I get to use my glutes, and then I do some light squats, just some light squats, because what that means is I'm building up to some heavy compound movements. I don't want to just jump right into heavy squats or heavy deadlifts or heavy leg press. I want to get my body ready for moving well in these movement patterns, right? So you might do a little bit of isolation just to wake the muscles up. You don't have to, but you can, especially if you're recovering from an injury or if you're like me, you're hypermobile, so you need to wake up some of these muscles to doing their job since your tendons and ligaments won't be doing them. And then a light compound movement to warm up the movement pattern. If I'm going to do heavy squats, I'm going to start with some light squats. If I'm going to do heavy deadlifts, I'm going to start with light deadlifts, right? If I'm going to do some heavy step-ups or lunges, I'm going to start with some light step-ups and lunges. So you get the picture, right? And then you do your course of heavy compound exercises, however many you've got time for and or are trained well for. You're gonna nuke those compound exercises because compound exercises increase growth hormone in men, especially it increases testosterone, and these things are going to be really helpful for you in the muscle growth adaptations of the gain training or hypertrophy phase, right? And then when you're pretty exhausted and the muscles are pretty tired and your nervous system's pretty smoked, you want to ease off of the compound movements. Most of the time, injuries occur in a workout when compound movements are attempted on a fatigued nervous system. So that's one of the main quips that I have with CrossFit style workouts, for instance, because you might do some hard work. You might be doing, a 7-minute AMRAP or something after you've practiced cleans and gotten as heavy as possible. And then you go, do clean and jerks or thrusters with, significant weight while you're out of breath and tired. That's when your back gets mad at you. That's when your shoulders get mad at you. And we don't want that in hypertrophy. We want to tax the muscle tissue without angering your joints, right? So we do our heavy compound movements, and then we might transition to some isolation hypertrophy. This is the opportunity to be isolated, to be controlled, and to tax one muscle group at a time. So you might do some heavy leg extensions on this imaginary leg day that we're doing. You might do some heavy hamstring curls on this imaginary leg day. This is a great time for things like calf raises and stuff. This is a very, very poor time for things like box jumps or burpees. Don't do high-intensity plyometric work after you have taxed the body with compound movements. So, compound versus isolation movements are a very, very powerful concept to get you the most out of your hypertrophy work. So when you do compound movements and you really get a lot of good work done when you're fresh toward the beginning of your workout, then you're able to add in some isolation toward the end of your workout, and that can be an awesome thing. Now, the last thing I'll say is one of the things we talked about last night in the seminar is the use of supersets in hypertrophy. That's when you stack two exercises together. And so with regard to compound and isolation movements, one of the things that you might use in hypertrophy is a superset with a compound movement coupled with an isolation movement. And you could do that in a way that really taxes one particular muscle group. So for instance, we could do a superset with pull-ups. Pull-ups are a compound movement. They hit the biceps, the lats, the lower traps, right? They're a compound movement. And then if we really want to hit the biceps hard, then we can couple that with an isolation movement like bicep curls. So we do pull-ups and then bicep curls. Man, your biceps are going to be smoked after that, right? Or let's say instead of smoking our biceps today, what we would like to do is hit our triceps on a day when we're not also hitting our chest. And so we could do pull-ups, and then we could couple that with something like tricep extensions. And what that might allow me to do is hit triceps multiple times in the week. I can hit triceps on back day, and I can hit triceps on chest day by proxy, right? Because bench press hits the triceps, and incline press hits the triceps, and so on and so forth, right? So there are a lot of different ways that you can use this concept to vary your program and to make it work better for you. If I've made your head spin and you're like, man, I want to see what that looks like, then I highly encourage you to check out our Jumpstart program here in Better Daily. It is a paid program, but what we do is we get together with you, we understand what it is that you're trying to achieve, and we create for you the quote-unquote perfect week of coaching so that we can do the hard work of building out your perfect hypertrophy program, utilizing things like compound movements and isolation movements and whatnot to get you the most out of your workout. And we also make sure that we do that with the equipment that you have available. So that said, I hope this was helpful to you. I hope that you'll use compound and isolation movements intelligently this winter to get some amazing hypertrophy gain train results, maintaining your muscle tissue and prepping yourself for an amazing start to the year. Guys, this has been Coach Alex Van Houten on Flex Friday in Better Daily. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited about next week's Mindset Monday as we go through this weekend together and kick next week's butt. Until next time, guys, remember, it's just 1%. You got this.
Thank you for joining us for 1% Better today. Don't forget to subscribe for the podcast. Leave us a raving review to tell others how Better Daily has helped you in your journey. If you want more Better Daily, download our app and join our Betterment family at betterdaily.live. Use code POD to get 25% off your subscription. That's POD, all caps, to save 25% on your subscription. We all have a cross to carry. It's later when we do it together. Go to betterdaily.live today.